Hiya folks, this video is about circles touching axes. So you see in 1 and 2 here, so the first one is the circle is touching the x-axis. So what you should be seeing is that the radius has to be the same thing as what the y coordinate is, because that's just how far up the y-axis it is. So therefore, always when it's touching the x-axis, the r will be equal to the absolute value of minus f. So it's whatever the absolute value of the y coordinate is. So even if the circle was down below the line, down here, it would still be the absolute value of what the y coordinate is. And then similar, the same thing really with the if it's touching the y-axis. So then it's the x coordinate, because it's how far along the x-axis the radius is. So the radius has to be the same thing as the x coordinate. So the absolute value of the minus g. So that's what's going on here. Then this is the this is the formula for radius. So what we're saying is that the radius is equal to the absolute value of minus f. And then if you square both sides, what ends up happening is that the f squares cancel out, and you end up getting g squared is equal to c. So g squared will always be equal to c if the circle touches the x-axis, and f squared will always be equal to c if the circle touches the y-axis. So if you look at a question here then, so the equations of two circles which contain those two, so you're given 2 points and you're told that it touches the x-axis. So if you just take the 2 points for a second, 3 minus 2 and 2 minus 1, we can sub those into the equation of a circle formula first of all. So if I just sub in the point 3 minus 2 first of all. So 3 squared plus minus 2 squared plus 2g times 3 plus 2f times minus 2 plus c is equal to 0. So that's 9 plus 4, so that's 13, plus 6g minus 4f plus c is equal to 0. So 6g minus 4f plus c is equal to minus 13. And then if we sub in the other point, the 2 minus 1. So 2 squared plus minus 1 squared plus 2g times 2 plus 2f times minus 1 plus c is equal to 0. So 2 squared is 4 minus 1 squared is 1, so we get 5 plus 4g minus 2f plus c is equal to 0. So 4g minus 2f plus c is equal to minus 5. So if you bring the 5 across. So we've got 2 equations with g, f and c in it, but obviously we need a third one if we want to solve for 3 variables. So it touches the x-axis here. So because it touches the x-axis, like we kind of had up above, the radius has to be equal to the absolute value of minus f. So I'm going to let the formula g squared plus f squared minus c is equal to the absolute value of minus f. So you might not remember in an exam then, so you may have to go through this bit. So we know that g is, well, sorry, we don't know what g is, so we're just squaring both sides. So if you square the left hand side, you get g squared plus f squared minus c. It just removes the square root, and that would just be equal to f squared when you square that minus f. And then you'll see, like I said up above, the f squared will cancel here, so g squared will end up being equal to c. So g squared is equal to c here. So we've got 3 equations now really. So we've got this one here, and this equation here, and then we've got the equation g squared is equal to c. So we're going to use all of those. So because because this equation has g squared is equal to c in it, it's an equation with just g and c, so I'm going to remove the f basically. So I'm going to write out the other two equations down here. So 6g minus 4f plus c is equal to minus 13, and 4g minus 2f plus c is equal to minus 5. So I'm going to kind of eliminate the f's or make them cancel out. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by minus 2. So we get 6g minus 4f plus c is equal to minus 13, and minus 8g plus 4f minus 2c is equal to 10. Then the f's will cancel, so we're left with minus 2g minus c is equal to minus 3. So now minus 2g minus c is equal to minus 3, so I can figure out what c is then. So c is equal to minus 2g minus 3, or plus 3. So I know that c is equal to that, and I also know that c is equal to g squared. So therefore I can let g squared be equal to minus 2g plus 3. So we get g squared plus 2g minus 3 is equal to 0. So we have g plus 3, g minus 1. I'm just solving for g now. So g is equal to minus 3, or g is equal to 1. So that's just factorizing and solving. So I've got two values of g. That's what you're always going to get here, because we're going to have two circles in the end. So I know g is one of those. So I also know that c is equal to g squared. So if I sub those back into the equation, I'm going to get two values for c. So if g is equal to minus 3, then c is equal to minus 3 squared. So c is equal to 9. If g is equal to 1, then c is equal to 1 squared, which is equal to 1. So now I've got two values for g, two values for c. So I'm going to sub it back into one of the equations up here. So I'll take the 4g minus 2f plus c is equal to minus 5. And we go the same thing then. So if g is equal to minus 3 and c is equal to 9, then 4 times minus 3 minus 2f plus 9 is equal to minus 5. So that's minus 12 minus 2f plus 9 is equal to minus 5. If I bring across to 12, it becomes 7, and subtract 9 is minus 2, so minus 2f is equal to minus 1, or sorry, minus 2. So f is equal to minus 1. Sorry, 1. Then, so that's one option. But then the other one, if e is equal to 1 and c is equal to 1, then 4 times 1 minus 2f plus 1 is equal to minus 5. So 4 minus 2f plus 1 is equal to minus 5. Bring across the 4 and the 1, so we get minus 2f is equal to minus 10. So then f is equal to 5. So we've got two options from here then. So the first one is if g is minus 3, c is 9, and f is 1. So if that's the case, we're subbing it back into the equation of a circle. It'll be minus 6x, because 2g, that's 2 times minus 3, plus 2y plus 9 is equal to 0. So that's one circle. And then the other circle will be, it's if g is 1, c is 1, and f is 5. So if that's the case, well then it has x squared plus y squared plus 2gx, so that's 2 times 1, so that's 2, so plus 2x plus 2fy, so that's 2 times 5, so that's 10, so plus 10y, plus 1 is equal to 0, because 1 is c. So that's it then, those are circles. So to recap, so obviously it's a long question, and it is straightforward enough, it's just breaking it down, working out in it. So first thing we did was we subbed the 2 points in, 3 minus 2 and the 2 minus 1, gave it two equations with g, f and c in them. The next bit was it touches because it's the x-axis, the radius has to be equal to the absolute value of minus f. If it touched the y-axis, well then it would be equal to the absolute value of minus g. So the radius has to be equal to one of those things. Here, just let the formula for radius then, the root g squared plus f squared minus c be equal to minus absolute value of minus f. I square both sides, that just changed into an f squared is equal to g squared plus f squared minus c. We get n of g squared is equal to c. Then I took the two original equations, the ones with g, f and c in them, and I eliminated the f out of them, and then I used what I got. So I got that minus 2g plus 3 is equal to c, and I already know from the radius being equal to the minus f that g squared is equal to c, so I can let the two things that are equal to c be equal to each other, solve for g, and then I get two values for g. Then because when I get two values for g, I sub them both back into the g squared is equal to c equation, and I get two values for c. Now I've got two values for g, two values for c, so I sub them back into one of the equations up above. So here I used 4g minus 2f plus c is equal to minus 5, and I end up getting two values for f, so then I've got two values for each of g, f and c, and I just put them into the equation of a circle. So I know it's long, but that's it.